Ladies and gentlemen, this fight will be contested in the Bantamweight division over 3 3-minute rounds. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, this man represents Silverbacks MMA, it's George Hoad! And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, this man represents Misfits MMA, it's Rob Carter! And your referee in charge of the action.
Here we go, we have George Hood in the black shorts and Bobby Carter in the yellow. Here we go, Bobby Carter versus George Hood. Bobby coming off that huge win against the very talented Bantamweight lead. George Hood coming off that win at Cage Warriors Academy versus Elias Boston. Two absolute up-and-comers facing off here in the cage, very similarly sized as well. Maybe Bobby's got a little bit of reach.
Up-and-comers with up-and-coming gyms.
I was
just
saying, Steve, they're both coming off huge wins.
Yeah, that little experience as we go up the card is going to make all the difference. You see a much more of a feeling out process going to the body there. Does Carter?
Yeah, this is great from Carter as well. We've seen him come out and look a little wild before, but he's looking really polished now. Just feeling out his opponent, looking for those tells, looking for the holes in his game. Jab to the body, and this is what it is. More experienced fighters, it becomes a dance. They're expressing skill. They're trying to look for those mistakes, look at the tells, look at the reactions.
Exactly. They're looking for holes in each other's games.
And what I love about Bobby Carter, Steve, is he does have some wild shots. He's got some wild big kicks and things, and he's got huge hands when he wants them. So you know it's there. It's in the pocket. He's just got to choose his moment.
He's just got to find it. Just got to find a little position for one of those big uppercut.
Ooh.
Right? It's just glancing right now.
I'm very impressed by the boxing of George Hood, though. Very composed, keeping that guard tight, moving, little feints, head movement, rolls, constantly looking for angles. We are looking at two very, very good amateur fighters. Exchanging leg kicks. The leg of George Hood already seriously reddened. Well, going high with the front leg kick. Grappling exchange.
There we go, our first little connection of the evening.
I thought this would be interesting if it's turned into a grappling exchange. I sort of possibly had on paper, based on watching their previous fights, that Bobby would want to keep this on the feet. George would look to close the distance. Good work by Bobby Carter, turning it around. Very evenly matched once again. Oh, picks up the single.
Yeah, this is nice from Hoad. He's picking up the single, but he's having to carry all of Bobby Carter's weight right now. As Bobby looks to get that cross face with his right hand, he's driving Hoad's face away, so he can't lead into that grappling exchange and get his posture on the leg.
Yeah, and for the viewers at home, if you're not so familiar with the mixed martial arts, the winner is generally the one that's holding the other person against the cage. It can set up takedowns just like that.
Nice little trip there from Hoad. That pays off. In terms of the scoring, like you said, Chris, who's holding against the cage, who's establishing takedowns and dominance in the cage. So right now we've got Hoad with a big takedown. He's going to look to cut his knee through and maybe get to a pass or posture up and start doing some damage. And Hoad's just looking to create some space so he can either stand up or at least get his head off the cage there. Oh, he was almost trying for a triangle there. He was posting on the arm.
Yeah.
Really hard to finish that against the cage. And Hoad's doing something really well, really high level that we've seen come into the meta, is he was keeping his head into the cage to prevent any sort of movement over his head to gain any submissions.
Yeah, very, very interesting first round. Pretty even on the feet. See, Hoad got a nice takedown, held him up against the cage, but the judges are going to struggle with that round. Very, very even. Carter had some really nice leg kicks. Hoad's head movement was absolutely fantastic. And like you say, Steve, it's so different. Some people watching at home, I'm sure you train mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu, or you're familiar with some of the concepts of grappling on the floor. Holding someone against the cage changes all of that. Right? It's an extra element that you don't necessarily train in the gym when you're doing jiu-jitsu. You just move away from the wall. But if you can push someone's head against it, right, it's hard to. You can't move your spine the same way if your neck is up.
Exactly. It ends up becoming another dimension for which you have to contest with. And it's something that has to be trained and drilled into you to know that when you enter that position, how are you going to either rotate yourself off of it or use it to your advantage? We see people wall walk, for example, get their backs onto the cage and use their shoulders to get their feet back under them and then posture back up. A lot of this is about momentum, folks. A lot of it's about posture. But we saw Hoad take the momentum there at the end of the first. Now Bobby Carter looking to come forward. Chopping kick there from Hoad. Disrupting Teep as well.
It's also interesting where one fighter gets a takedown. It's like, does that now change the approach? You're like, all right, I got a takedown. I think I can out-wrestle this guy. And this is what you see. Instead of, the first 90% of the last round was boxing, now Hoad's taking this, trying to turn into a grappling exchange as quick as possible. Does he see this as his advantage? But Carter's got his arm around the chin, now that underhook position. What does Carter need to do here, Steve? You love these wrestling exchanges.
Well, Carter's doing the right thing. He's using his head to bully Hoad away from him, and he's using that to cut himself a little bit of space to get that left underhook in. I'd like to see him try to shovel that right underhook in as well, to try to get under both of Hoad's arms to prevent any sort of attempt on the takedown like we're going to see right now as Hoad drops back down to the hips and spears him into the mat.
Lovely little wrestling sequence there from Hoad. Turned him off the cage, dropped the momentum as they were turning. So he was already on the double.
This is a huge fallacy in MMA, folks. You get one underhook, but your opponent will have the other underhook. You end up in an over-under position, and it's pretty much a 50-50 spot. So Hoad was just able to use that to his advantage there, sucks in the hips, and gets Bobby Carter back to the ground.
Bobby Carter looking for a submission, Steve, trying to lock up a triangle, maybe playing a little bit of
rubber guard. Could it be?
You like a bit of rubber guard.
Oh yeah, of course. A lot of appreciation for it.
So this is an interesting battle here. So Hoad, he doesn't want to get caught in with one arm in, one arm out. He wants to get his past it, like that would be great. Yeah, and he wants to keep that head pressure. He wants Carter's neck against the cage the whole time.
Yeah, and again, Hoad's doing really well here. He's keeping the top of his forehead into the neck of Bobby Carter. He's not letting Carter get a breath for a moment. And that little bit of pressure there, it adds up as the seconds tick away. He's going to use that to maybe sneak a punch in over the top as he postures back up.
Carter's talking to someone, maybe the other corner or his opponent. There's a little mind games going on. But yeah, Hoad it's a dangerous position in being in someone's guard. They can throw up submissions, but from an MMA perspective, you generally sort of, most of the time you're going to consider the guy on top to be the one winning. Quite often, especially if they're throwing a bit of ground and pound, which is what Hoad's doing. And Carter is looking for submissions, but he just needs to make space. He needs his head off the cage so he can actually work off his back more effectively.
Yeah, he's very active with the guard right now. He's climbing his legs up the body of Hoad, but Bobby Carter just can't get the head movement, the angle, if you will, to throw his legs over the top. And then you see Hoad again with the top of his head, the crown of his head on the cage there, which will prevent any sort of triangle attempts or any arm bars. And he's able to use that now to spend the last 10 seconds in Bobby Carter's guard, landing a couple of punches. Doesn't have to look big, but look, he makes Carter pay on the way up there.
He had three biggish ones at the end of that round, Steve. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance there's another round and back for Hoad. And Carter, he hasn't taken much damage. He's looking super dangerous off his back. His guard is very impressive. You can see, I can see the setups. You can see that wrist control. He's trying to push one arm between his legs. He's trying to set it up. And it looks like it's actually there, jiu-jitsu-wise. He just can't do it off the cage.
Just doesn't have the motion off of his back. And this is the thing with jiu-jitsu. It's a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of fun to play around with. But you're essentially practicing from a losing position. You're on your back. And if they just stay there and do nothing, they win the fight. They don't have to do very much. They can land a couple of shots and they look brilliant doing it. You have to make something big happen. And those are big energy moves. But right now, looking at Bobby Carter, he doesn't seem to be breathing too hard. But then on the other side of the cage, Hoad is just as fresh.
Hoad looks like he's waiting for the bus, Steve.
Yeah, he's like, hey man, yeah, you want to get chips after this, bro? Like, oh, they're going to touch gloves. Really nice 3 rounds. They've known each other for 6 minutes. Let's see if any of that is going to come into play, or if we're going to see something wild, spinning wheel kick or something like that. I liked what Hoad was doing, going to the body with the kicks early on, but again, Bobby Carter goes into this exchange where he hasn't won a single grappling exchange so far.
Yeah, I thought Carter would want to keep it on the outside, do everything he can to keep it long. We know he has great kicks.
Hoad's going to follow probably the same little sequence that he's been doing. He's looking to drop down on the leg, A little adjustment here from Bobby Carter. He's holding the wrist there. He's got a wrist tie with his right hand, and he's bringing his leg to the outside of Hoad. And this is good for him because he can kind of lean on Hoad, but he can't make much happen. Can't get his hips back. And Hoad might be able to run the pipe or collect the knees like he's doing here. And Bobby Carter just sags to the ground there. Not an admission of defeat at all, but just an admission that he's lost that position. Now he's in a half butterfly with Hoad stuffing that heel into Bobby Carter's butt there. So no elevation possible immediately.
Yeah, it's like you said, Steve. He's found a route of success. It's get us to the cage, drag him down, don't take any risks, be aware of the submission game, land little shots, win the round, and it's working for Hoad. But Carter is dangerous. You can see that. A little leg squeeze.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I like a leg squeeze, Steve.
Yeah,
Scissors, body scissors.
My daughter does that to everybody. It's hilarious.
It does work. So I mean, you get a reaction out of
Yeah,
people.
you really
certainly.
do. They have to get out of there. But here again, even if Hoad just stays a little bit active here on top, it makes him look really, really strong. And he's just keeping Bobby Carter down here. You've noticed we haven't had any warnings from Stuart Davies about passivity or lack of action or come on, hit.
No, Hoad.
They're staying very active. And again, Hoad's head right there on the crown of Bobby Carter is really bothering him.
That's the thing. If he postured up and tried to pass like you would in a jiu-jitsu class, a traditional sort of grappling class, that would also open up the submissions for Carter. But because he's just smothering him, he's driving forward. Like Khabib came into the UFC and he no longer tried to pass. He just sit in your half guard or sit in your guard, head in the face, do damage, win rounds. And this is exactly what Hoad's doing. And it's a beautiful skill to watch. And it's also nice trying to see Bobby Carter, such an experienced fighter, trying to solve this puzzle. He's trying to throw up submissions, use that rubber guard, make space, get his head off the cage. But at the moment,
smother and cover.
The smother and cover is winning.
He's doing well. A little grapevine action there.
He's running out of time as Mr. Carter with 30 seconds to go. Will we see a wild submission attempt at the very end of the fight? He's throwing his feet up, looking for something. Last 20 seconds. Back to his feet. Turns him. Nice knees.
Nice knee right there.
If we get a separation, we're going to see some wildness, I think, from Bobby Carter. But Hoad doing the right thing, just staying connected for the last 10 seconds.
Just hasn't given him any room to make anything happen. I like these little boxings. Little box of the ears there.
I think Hoad smiled at that. Excellent fight. Excellent fight. We
Three
saw
frenetic rounds.
Yeah, fantastic skills by both fighters. Carter thinks he might have got the nod. Seems unlikely based on the takedowns, but I like an optimistic person is important. We're going to go into the judges' scorecards in just a moment. Our announcer, Mr. Steve Brinkman, giving us the result. Hoad just needed a moment to compose himself. Real frenetic output he had.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, after 3 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards. We have a unanimous decision. For your winner, in the red corner, George Hoad!
George Hoad moves on to 2-1 with 2 big wins over.
And put your hands together for Bobby Carter.
Who is next for George Hoad in this division. Clearly very young and talented. Huge things in the future, I think, Mr. George Hoad. Hello to everyone watching live on pay-per-view. We are live here at Northampton Cricket Ground with Battle Arena 80, and then we have 10 more of the best amateur and pro mixed martial arts fights coming up this evening. Make sure you give us Battle Arena a follow on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We have a massive YouTube channel with a catalogue of many of the fights, so if you enjoyed our man there fighting, you can watch some of his previous fights. You can watch Bobby Carter's previous fight, the controversial one. Very, very good. So